The Cowboys OT is brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and by blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today.
The Buffalo Bills run for 266 yards, a season high for both Buffalo and a season high allowed for the Dallas Cowboys in a 31-10 win for the Bills over the Cowboys in Week 15 of the NFL season, providing a blow to their top chances in terms of a top seed in the playoffs and possibly for their chances to win the NFC East. Welcome into Cowboys OT from the Star in Frisco. We are inside the Globe Life studios with Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Youmans. Gentlemen, we're going to break this down as much as we can. It was a frustrating one for the Cowboys and for Cowboys Nation. This was not the production you expected from a team that had everything still in front of them and had come just off of a 5-game win streak and a big win over the Philadelphia Eagles last week. Barry, what are your thoughts?
Well, first, I'm going to start on the defensive side of the football. See, that's where I played at, and to me, this was an embarrassing loss overall. When you give up 266 yards on the ground on 49 carries, that just shouldn't happen from a Dan Quinn defense, and they were getting moved all over the place. The trenches were owned on both sides of the ball by the Buffalo Bills, but defensively, it's like they couldn't get a hold of it. Whatever they wanted to do, outside, inside, Buffalo had their choice. Josh Allen didn't even really need to do much in this game. He didn't turn the football over. He didn't have one of those game-costing turnovers. He just turned the ball or turned around, turned it off, or handed it off, and was able to dink and dunk down the field. When you're able to do that against this defense, you're going to win the game. So to me, basically, Dallas didn't get Buffalo in a situation where they had to force them to pass. They were able to do whatever they wanted to do, rushing the ball, throwing the ball. Dallas didn't stand a chance. And what's surprising is that pass rush was not able to get after Josh Allen, and neither was the rush defense out there. James Hook had a heck of a day out there for me.
We always talk about complimentary football for the last 5 weeks. It was complimentary today, too, because the defense, offense, or the special teams didn't do anything. We couldn't do nothing on third down. We was 5 for 13. We need a better percentage than that. We did not control the time possession, which you definitely need to try to do that if you go on the road because of that, all that adversity you face. It just was not a pretty day, Isaiah.
76% of your plays were run plays. That's Buffalo I'm talking about. So when you talk about enforcing your will, that is the definition of enforcing your will. Turning around, like Barry said, and handing the ball off to whomever, Cook, Murray, freaking A, Josh Allen. So I hate to say it like that, but that's the reality. This is the definition of enforcing your will. When the coach goes in, he calls in the play and says, hey, what do you want? Again. What do you want? Again. And there's nothing that you can do to stop it. That is old school Nate Newton, early 90s Dallas Cowboys bully ball, and it just happened to happen against you this time instead of it being in your favor.
It was the bullying in Buffalo is what it ended up being. I mean, the bludgeoning in Buffalo, whatever you want to call it, it happened in a number of ways, and the Cowboys could not have an answer. It was the first time the Cowboys and Bills had faced off in Buffalo since 2015, first time they'd seen each other since 2019. Buffalo brought the hammer early, driving into the red zone, but on 3rd and 4, it appears Dallas has a stop, but not so fast, Barry Church. DeMarcus Lawrence called for roughing the passer.
Yeah, this one right here, I don't understand. I mean, he gave him a little forearm shiver to the chest. Of course, Josh Allen sold it a little bit. This is more like soccer, not football. I don't know how you can throw that flag, but once again, the penalties hurt this Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yeah, keep an eye on that one because that's not the only one. Drive continued. Few plays later, Bills muscle it into the end zone. Took a second effort, but the physicality helped Buffalo strike first. They led it 7-0. Both teams would then trade stops back and forth. Buffalo set the punt again when Sam Williams had a great break through the line of scrimmage, but he misses the ball, but he doesn't miss the punter, Isaiah. Roughing the punter is the call, and it gives it another Buffalo chance.
Yeah, it's just what you can't do. I mean, you go over reps, especially in the summertime training camp where you are literally going to work on hitting the ball, taking it off the foot of the punter. When you don't do so, this is the result.
Yeah, later in the drive, Josh Allen rolls out to the right, finds James Cook for the score out of the backfield, 14-0 Buffalo. Here's one highlight in favor of the Dallas Cowboys. We've got a good one, guys. It was a 32-yard field goal from Brandon Aubrey, now 31 of 31 on the season, and the Cowboys get on the board. However, back on defense, 2nd down and long, another incomplete pass, but Jaron Kurtz called for unnecessary roughness. Nate, this first down leads to more Bills opportunity.
Yes, right here. Only thing I can see head to head. Other than that, right there, he was not going to miss the guy. He was going to touch him regardless. So I think it was the head to head.
The third personal foul of the first half, and it leads to the third touchdown of the first half for the Buffalo offense. They led 21-3 at the half, largest halftime deficit for Dallas since Washington in 2020. And the second half didn't start much better for Dak Prescott and company. First drive ended with a sack. No pressure, Dak Prescott did not see the pressure coming up the middle, and the same can be said on the next drive. This one, again, a third down sack, and Dallas is forced to punt, down 24-3. This time it comes from the left side of the offensive line that struggled really through the entirety of this one. Buffalo kept their pedal to the metal, and by that I mean keeping the ball on the ground. James Cook up the middle, rumbles his way forward, and he puts a stamp on a career day. He finishes with 25 carries, 179 yards, and a touchdown. A nice front flip into the end zone made it 31-3. Now, Dallas would add a late CeeDee Lamb touchdown, but that's really cosmetic from this point forward. Mike McCarthy's Cowboys fall to 10-4. They did clinch a playoff spot today, but really that's the backside of the storyline. Following a 3-score loss on the road against Buffalo, they fall to 3-4 overall in road games this season. Buffalo 31, Dallas 10. When we come back here on Cowboys OT, we're going to hear from head coach Mike McCarthy. What are his reactions of this one, and how can Dallas turn it around for their Christmas Eve matchup with Miami?
This segment is brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys fall on the road in Orchard Park, New York, to the Buffalo Bills, 31-10, the final score. Let's hear from head coach Mike McCarthy as he takes to the podium.
Obviously, we didn't play very well. I want to give Buffalo all the credit. They played the way you need to play. They controlled the clock, ran the ball. Was thorough in the situation. Offensively, we didn't move the ball effectively. We knew we were going to have to go the long way, the way they played us. So we had some key plays there in the second quarter, and I thought that if you can make it, maybe the game goes a different way. The penalty on the block punt attempt, that was a huge play. Not getting the turnover was another play. So we needed those plays. I think we were -6 big play production in the first half. And obviously we didn't get we needed to go score some points. Got a break with the weather. The weather was great in the first half, so we did not play well.
This brings up questions about your play on the road. You're so great at home.
There's what?
Your play on the road.
Yes.
It's so disparate.
It's a gap. It's part of my message. I just. We play so well at home, and there's just too big of a gap in our road games. Yeah, we're conscious of it. We'll got a long flight home to continue to talk about it, think about it. Now, obviously, we got to move on to Miami in the morning. We'll get this one corrected. But yes, we got to be better. And this, I think we talked about it coming off of the Thursday night game going into Philadelphia. I think this stretch really lays up well for us because. It gives us 3 road games, all tough games, and I don't think anybody expected to play the way we did tonight. They played well. I don't want to discredit their performance, but we got to be much better on the road, regardless of what's in front of us and all the other conversations, because there's too big of a gap between home and away.
Obviously, a lot of talent out there on defense, but how do you get this team to play more?
Hey, flag me down. I'll call on you. Okay. Mike Towers for the ESPN. The run defense, that's been a worry for you for a good portion of the year. What happened today with them getting the edge and also up the middle?
Yeah, no, they got on our edge, a bunch, and I know Dan and the guys were very impressed with Cooks, throughout the week. So, specifically, they performed better than we did. They broke our contain, they broke tackles, they won the bend back battle. So, just all the little things that we've been good at. So, they were better at it today.
And you mentioned the turnover. Did you not get word quick that it was a fumble?
No, we did not get a replay.
How do you get this team to play more physical?
You gonna take care of this guy or what? What's your name?
Jay. How do you get this team to play more
I'm trying to help you out here.
physical?
Yeah.
How do you get this team to play more physical? It seems like they just got beat up today. It doesn't kind of like physicality.
Okay, yeah, we didn't play as well as they did.
So frustration, and notably so, for Mike McCarthy and company. I mean, it didn't work out the way that they wanted to, and you could sense some of that frustration from McCarthy in the press conference. Based off of what you've seen out of this team this year, is there a concern anytime they go on the road, now falling to 3-4 in games away from AT&T Stadium?
Definitely when teams decide they're going to run the ball with Hankins out. I mean, you put a lot of pressure on this defense, and you need to win games on the road because the way it looks as of today, you will be on the road. We know definitely one time, maybe two. So you have to find ways, not have the bad penalties, the personal fouls against yourself, not being able to stop the run and not being able to run. Those are things that you have to fix, and that way you'll be a better road team.
Yeah, I don't know what it is that they have to figure out in terms of playing at home versus playing on the road, but they have to figure it out because not being able to be assertive, not being able to execute offensively, defensively, special teams wise on the road is killing your opportunity for what you've set out for your goal to be this season. And, we talk about the penalties. Yeah, you can't hurt yourself in the penalties, 3 personal foul penalties. But the reality is this is 5 penalties versus what they've been doing is actually you'll take that all day long, just not in the certain situations in which they happened, they occurred. They extended drives. But these guys just got beat down in the trenches. I take this game and I set it outside of the rest of the games that they've lost outside of their home field because of the fact they just lost pure, blank, and simple in the trenches. And yes, that was on the defensive front in terms of not having Jonathan Hankins, but offensively too. The offensive line got beat to crap today. Those guys had their way, and we knew that there was going to be a potential of that because of how athletic this entire defensive line was. The Dallas Cowboys are used to playing against big, non-mobile guys in the NFC East, big, strong physical guys, and that's a challenge of its own. But when you have these guys that can stun, move around, and do all those things and win their individual battles by movement and speed, then that presents a whole new problem. So there's a lot of things that they have to look at outside of just losing on the road.
So with that being said, and there's so many different elements to this loss that stick out for the Cowboys, but is it a team that if they get out physical early and they get in a hole early, they don't have enough to make it up? Because it's happened in 3 of the 4 losses, to be honest. It happened in Arizona, it happened in San Francisco, and it happened in Buffalo.
My concern with this team, I know a lot of people kind of circle the games that are remaining, and they kind of say, okay, well, Miami's the game that you have to work out, look out for because they're so explosive. I've always looked at it and said Detroit, right? I didn't expect Buffalo to present that much of an issue tonight as they did, but I always circle Detroit because that's the one thing that we know about Detroit is their character and their defining, characteristic of their team is physicality, much like the San Francisco 49ers is physicality. And we've always had problems historically the last few years with physical teams. It just decided that Buffalo decided to come in today and say, you know what? We've seen what those guys did. We've seen what you struggle with. Shoot, prove it to us that this is not what your identity is. And unfortunately, Dallas did not punch back.
No, definitely not. They tried to early on. You could see a considerable effort to try and bring the physicality, but when the penalties started going the opposite way and things didn't roll their way, that's when the frustration started to set in. And when we come back here on Cowboys OT, we're going to talk to Micah Parsons and hear his thoughts following the loss. He's never been ashamed of talking about some of the issues. He'll address those when we come back.
This segment was brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys provided pressure on Josh Allen. However, they did allow 226 yards on the ground. So whether the pressure was there or not, it was ineffective against the Buffalo Bills. One of those guys rushing the passer was Micah Parsons. Let's hear from Micah and his thoughts after the loss.
I don't know. I don't really got a comment on it. I don't know what happened, to be honest.
From a team standpoint, how do you explain the difference in how you play the team on the road? We talked about playing well on the road, you can play well on the road, and this was another laid egg for the road.
Yeah, honestly, it's just unacceptable at this point. There's no excuse for it. It's mind-boggling. I don't understand it, why we're not playing well and why we're not coming together on the road. It's something that we need to look at and get better because we got to go on the road next week.
Something of this that goes back to the ankle injury and not having Hank. Is that important to what you guys are as a run defense?
I mean, Hank's important, but I mean, I think it was everyone all across the board. I don't think it's just one individual, one particular thing. I think it was a group effort.
Mike, how frustrating can it be trying to find the answers for the difference between home and away? It's a little mind-boggling.
I don't know. It's just something we got to look at it, but it's super frustrating for sure.
Do you expect Miami to come out and look at what Buffalo did and kind of do the same thing? Or other teams to start trying to play this way against y'all?
Well, if they do that, I think we'll have a pretty good Sunday because I think I got confidence in the guys around me and confidence in Quinn that we'll get it together and fix these mistakes and get better from it. We always have.
What did James Cook do so well tonight from your point?
I just thought he did a great job of just being patient. He was explosive, making people miss. He's been a good back all year, and he did a lot of great things tonight.
Beyond him making people miss and explosive, it seemed like they were more physical. They pushed the fouls, in the fouls, stuff like that. Just talk about a defense and the mentality of another team to push fouls and do things like that.
Yeah, they were holding the whistle. Usually when you stood up, they call it pretty quick, but tonight they was holding the whistle and they was pushing the foul. Something we put a focus point on after the second time they done it. But usually when you got a guy wrapped up and he's not going nowhere, they kind of call it dead, but tonight they was just letting us play.
Made the playoffs after a night like tonight. Is that even something that registered with you?
No, because, we got to get better on the road, and we got to be road warriors throughout the playoffs now because of this. So it doesn't matter unless we get better on the road.
Like you guys had 3 personal fouls and extended drives. How deflating is that for a defense when you get stopped?
I mean, it's super deflating. I think that changed the whole momentum of the game, changed the course of the game. They might get 3 on that third down. We get off the field, though, and they don't get any points on them next 2 drives. We make them earn it. I mean, if you just told me, I think that changed the whole momentum of the game, forced our offense to be in certain situations, not letting them get into their full game plan and things like that. Those crucial penalties really hurt. They really hurt. And time and time again, we come on the road and we face these crucial penalties and we just can't overcome it. And that's just something we got to look at.
We've got 2 more road games left, one against a very good team, one against not as good team. And then likely, you said, the road games in the playoffs. Can you fix it between now and the postseason?
Yeah, it's just going to have to be a mentality thing. Everyone is going to have to get better. We're going to get healthy and get ready because next week's going to be a big one.
So there's Micah Parsons following the 31-10 loss to Buffalo. I mean, of course, frustration is there, and there were times when Micah played well. He was providing pressure, like I said a moment ago, but when the defense can't stop the run and teams effectively continue to run, it turns into a problem for this defense.
Yeah, it turns into a big-time problem. And Buffalo was able to just put their weight on this defensive line when we talk about their offensive line versus the Cowboys' D-line. And they were able to put their weight on them and pretty much move them wherever they wanted to go. I mean, 266 yards rushing. We said it enough out here, but that's outstanding. And the majority of it was done by James Cook, but Ty Johnson was able to go in there and get some work in, and Josh Allen as well was able to go out there and get work in. So when you look at it as a whole, this rush defense, it was a problem tonight. And for Micah Parsons, he's an unbelievable player, top 3 defensive player in the National Football League, in my opinion. But in these big-time games, you have got to find a way to make some type of impact in this game, whether it's getting back to the second level and clogging up the run lanes, whatever you got to do, causing double teams, triple teams so your other guys can eat out there, whatever the case may be, you've got to make your presence known in these big-time games because your defense needs you.
When you go on the road, you can't almost. You gotta hit. Pressures are good, but when you're playing a 6'5", 240-pound quarterback that has athletic enough of skills to get out and run, you can't miss your opportunities. There were few tonight, but there was few that you missed. So you got to be a better player. You got to pay a little bit more attention to detail. Your pass rush lanes have to be better because teams will only get better as Miami next week.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This week it was physicality from Buffalo. Next week it's speed from Miami. And really the run game was so effective for Buffalo that Josh Allen only had 7 completions on 15 attempts, 94 yards. It's the lowest amount of completions in a winning effort for Josh Allen in his entire career, and it's the second lowest yardage in a winning effort in his entire career. So One of those games where the Cowboys couldn't stop the run and it turned into a loss. When we come back, though, we'll talk about the offensive side of the ball and see what Dak Prescott did in the 31-10 loss in Buffalo. 31-10, the final score in Buffalo. Dak Prescott finishes 21 of 34, 134 yards, no touchdowns. He did have the one late interception. The offense as a whole was pretty ineffective, but let's hear from what Dak Prescott had to say.
Yeah, it's a huge difference, and really it's what this next week of preparation and honestly these next couple of weeks are about is figuring out what that difference is and trying to close that gap. Obviously, we'd love to come out, start like we play at home, produce like we do at home, but that just hadn't been the case. So we've got to find out what those answers are and try to close that gap. And we can't be those two different of a teams. You know what I mean? Winning like we do at home against obviously a good team last week, and then come out here today and just don't get anything done all the way around. I mean, in all three phases. But obviously, when myself, the offense doesn't start well, it doesn't help anything of it, any part of that, and allows them to continue to run the ball with the lead, and just makes it tough on everybody.
Can you remember being on a team where it's this pronounced this late in the season on a good team?
What do you mean?
Just the gap between the performance, just so.
No, I mean. But I also don't know if I've been on a team that's been as dominant as we have been at home. So to be able to put my finger on just that and say, I mean, I'd be reaching in that sense. So like I said, we know it's the same guys that are lining up. We've always taken pride in our communication. So there's some things I can tell you that we are doing right. That's not it. But I wish I could tell you right now. Wish I could have told you before this game. So we got to figure that out.
Clarence Hill for West Program. You guys clinched the playoff before the game. Did you know that? And does it mean anything on a day like today?
No, I didn't know that at all. Didn't pay attention to that. Don't care, to be honest. Obviously, coming into this thing, and I mean, beginning of the year, that's one of the goals. But as we've gotten to the latter part of the year with the way that we've been handling the season, we knew that was just a matter of time. So can check it off, but we've got other things to focus on, and I've continued to tell y'all in different times that this is about us putting our best performance out each and every week, and today we simply didn't do that. And so that's where the concern and that's where the focus is right now, much more than us getting to the playoffs. Is we've got, 2 out of the 3, something like that, right, left on the road. So we know once we get to that point, that tournament point, obviously we're not helping ourselves with home field or anything like that like we did today. So it's about figuring out that gap and just making sure that we're trying to get better.
What was the miss with the offensive passing game?
Missed one early. Boom. I think that obviously that can change the game right there alone. 7-7 to start it off, make that pass. Felt good coming out. Don't know if the wind was behind me or not. Part of it, though, right? You got to move on from that fast, and we didn't do that necessarily. And so didn't get some completions early. Put us down, right? They already had the 7-0 lead, then boom, they score again. And at that point, trying to play in a drop-back game in conditions like this is not going to be favorable. I can tell you that. And so they did a great job on defense, disguising for one, putting the top on it, making us play underneath. And as I said, it's going to be tough in conditions like this when they've got the lead, trying to have to just go drop back all game long. So they beat us with the formula.
So Dak Prescott finishes with those 134 yards. And, I mean, of course, some of that went away because of the sack yardage and it was taken backwards. But there you see the final stats from the offense. 5 of 13 on third down. Isaiah, when you look at this offense, it was just really an inability to get in a rhythm. Mike McCarthy said it a little bit earlier. They'd never found their footing, never got into a rhythm. And because of that, it put the defense behind the 8 ball, and time of possession was severely skewed in favor of Buffalo.
Yeah, very much so. I think they found themselves in a situation where they were playing from behind early on, and they never were able to get their actual offensive scheme in order nor in place. The one positive thing I guess you could say from tonight was the running of Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard had 11 carries for 52 yards. Wish he would have had more. Or if you would have watched the pregame show, myself, Nate Newton, and others said that he needed to get the ball at least 20 times. He got just under half of that. You know what I'm saying? Just under half of that. I said in others. You know what I'm saying? Barry Church and KY. Let me go ahead and say that, okay? So all of us said that he needed to get 20 touches, okay?
I know this is your monologue, but this has been Barry's. This is the hill Barry's been trying to die on all year long.
Listen, we can go back to special edition during the week. We can go back to
all year long.
Tony Pollard needed 20 touches.
He did,
okay?
yes.
He got 11 on 11 carries, okay? How many receiving yards?
He only had 2 receptions.
He only had 2 receptions,
yes.
okay? So this dude had 13 touches. He needed 20-plus touches. And all the touches he had were positive. So I don't understand why you're not feeding him more, whether that comes in the form of the running game, whether it comes in the passing game. Regardless, you just heard Dak say they had the formula. They put the top over it, right? They had 2 safeties over the top the entire time. They didn't allow your receivers to get the ball. Well, guess what? You have a Tony Pollard. He's getting paid a lot of money. He has fresh legs. He wants to rock. He wants to smoke. Let him go out here and do what he does best. He did so tonight with what you gave him.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 1,000%. When you look at Tony Pollard, what he was able to do today, yes, his carries weren't a lot, but he made the most of them, running in between the tackles, running through people, and falling forward each and every time. I'm with you with the fact that I would love for him to get more screen passes, bubble screens, whatever the case may be, just to get the ball in his hands. But when you talk about this offense, to me, the trenches, once again, we talked about it on the defensive side of the ball, but on the offensive side of the football, the trenches were under attack. They gave up 3 sacks and, to me, 7 quarterback hits. 7 times Dak Prescott was hit by a defender out there and he was put on his back. We haven't seen that in these past couple games from this offensive line. They've been playing as a unit protecting Dak Prescott. Today, the Buffalo Bills got the better hand.
Barry, I guess specifically you, why do you not believe that Dallas Cowboys aren't using Tony Pollard the way that the Buffalo Bills could? Because when I look at both of these backs, I think we both said it.
Yes.
They're similar skill sets.
Yeah.
So why is it that he's running 20-yard routes from 5 yards out the backfield, Cook that is, and routing up our linebackers, but Tony Pollard's being subjected to simply getting handoffs?
Yeah, I can't put my finger on that one because, like you said, Cook and Pollard, they're basically the same player out there. When you talk about speed and then execution and being able to receive the ball out of the backfield, for whatever reason, I don't know if Tony Pollard's tapping out or if they're bringing Rico Dowdle in on some type of rotation, but you need to let that man stay in the ball game and get the ball as much times as he needs to get the ball until he gets tired. Until you see one of these tapping out, then get Rico into the ball game. Tony Pollard deserves more chances at the Rock.
I completely agree, and I don't know if I've ever seen Barry Church so offended than in the moments after Isaiah left out his name specifically. And you left out the one important name up here on the panel.
I appreciate that.
When we come, I got your back. When we come back, we're going to hear about the defensive side. Damone Clark and company, they struggled to slow down James Cook and that weapon out of the Buffalo backfield. How can they turn things around on defense? James Cook had a career day in a Buffalo win over the Dallas Cowboys, 31-10. One of the main guys tabbed with slowing down Cook was Damone Clark at the second level. Here's what DC had to say following the loss for the Cowboys.
What happened today?
It was a tough one. The scoreboard speaks for itself. We didn't play our standard of ball that we were supposed to play. Yeah. We just got to play our standard of ball. We got to look ourselves in the mirror. I'm going to look myself in the mirror. And you just got to correct it. And we got another game next week that we got to move forward, correct it. We know it's a copycat league, so correct the things that we need to correct and get ready for Miami. Next question.
This was a game where either team was going to have to run the football to have any success, just given the weather circumstances. Why was it that you guys weren't able to find a way to stop the run, given that reality that you probably were needing to focus on stopping?
It was a tough one. Like I said, we didn't play our standard of ball. They beat us today. Like I said, we just gotta correct it. Look ourselves in the mirror, have tough skin, and get ready for Miami.
what's the message from McCarthy, from Dan Quinn, just now in the locker room with you guys in terms of how to bounce back from a game like this?
I mean, obviously, we know that wasn't our standard. We know the journey that we want to go on, and there's going to be obstacles along the way. You know, we just got to stay together. Just stay together, and like I say, just keep fighting with one another. You know, that's going to be adversity. You know, adversity either make you stronger or make you fold. You know, I know the guys in this locker room. You know, we're not going to fold. They knocked us out. We got hit. Now it's about how you're going to respond.
Is there any solace in the fact that this team has qualified for the playoffs that obviously haven't?
I mean, we just got to be where our feet are right now. We got to be where our feet at. You know, our feet is, you know, today. Like I say, it's going to come. Be where our feet at. Don't worry about nothing down the line. We got to worry about, you know, the task at hand right now. You know, that's the big thing. You know, when the playoffs get here, the playoffs get here. You know what we have to do. But first, to start off with correcting the film from the day.
So Damone Clark, very clear at the task at hand. Dallas needs a rebound on the defensive side. How do they get there, Barry?
Well, they got to tackle better. They have to tackle better, and that starts at the second level with the linebackers and the secondary as well. And, you know, I wish I had a stat on the yak yardage, the yards after contact that James Cook had today, but he forced a lot of missed tackles, and you've seen a lot of leaky yardage from those missed tackles.
You got a long ride home from Buffalo. That's about 4 hours. You start by the film, watching yourself first, and then seeing how you fit in the team concept and tackle much better.
That's a good point. As you look at the film, there are a number of ways that the Cowboys can get better after this performance, but it starts with the physicality, too. You got to be more physical. You got to have more tackling as well. When we come back here on Cowboys OT, we're going to hear about the physicality up front. Tyler Smith and company didn't play their best game either on the offensive line. What went wrong up front, and how can that turn around next week? Welcome back to Cowboys OT with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Youmans, continuing to break down the Cowboys' 31-10 loss to Buffalo. And in the loss, the Cowboys had 195 total yards. They had some success running the rock, but Dak Prescott was under duress for much of the four quarters in Buffalo. Here's what Tyler Smith had to say about the offensive line performance.
I mean, obviously, you know, it's extremely disappointing. You know, every week you go out, you want to win. You know, the guys, you know, myself included, put so much work into this thing. And, you know, when you don't get the results you want, it can be crushing at times. But, you know, we're not going to let ourselves get down. We're not going to let this game define us. You know, we just got to come back, you know, put together another great week of work. And then, you know, come and answer next Sunday, the Dolphins. You know, that's what it's all about. So I got the utmost faith in this squad. You know, we're going to come out and answer it the right way. No problem.
Is that something for a player that's almost kind of frustrating or baffling because it is something that's a little bit ambiguous, you know, to say it's home versus away?
I mean, I definitely try to keep, you know, the same mindset regardless of where we are. But, you know, there are obviously extenuating factors, you know, crowd noise and whatnot. But, you know, regardless of that, you know, we got to play the way we know we can play, you know. We know we're a great team, you know, and it's up to us to prove that week in and week out, regardless if we're in Dallas or, you know, away from Dallas. And so, you know, I think the most important thing for us is just putting together, you know, another great week of work and just coming back and, you know, playing the way we know we can play.
Does it help that you have multiple road games coming up?
I mean, absolutely. It's going to definitely answer those questions. You know, we're really going to look inward on who we are, you know, the expectation that we set for ourselves, you know, how we should play for each other, how we should play every week. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we got our eyes on the big prize, but we got to take it week by week at the same time. So it starts with the Dolphins for sure.
So there's Tyler Smith, based off of the offensive line production. Pass blocking, not so good. Run blocking, a little bit better. Nate, what were your thoughts up front?
Like I say, you got to pay attention to detail. And when you play better teams that was giving up 18.8 points a game. And so what you have to do is you have to pay attention to detail and make sure that you are ready as an individual player. And besides that right there, they were okay, nothing special.
Yeah, nothing special. This is all about going back and using this opportunity as film study. That's what you do. You go back, you watch the film, you address the things that you need to improve upon. You be realistic about yourself. You don't make any excuses. You don't point the finger. You go out there and you just literally look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, this is what I was. This is what I'm not going to be going forward. What do I need to change and what do we need to change collectively so that we don't have this showing again?
What did you think about T.J. Bass stepping in for the injured Zach Martin in that first half? Felt like there were good things and bad things along the way.
This kid he's gonna be a player. And I like what he did. He came and he battled. I mean, he had a few pressures, he had a few leaks, but that happens when you're not played as much as he's played with the other guys. This guy played okay. T.J. Bass is gonna be a player.
Yeah, I like the fact that T.J. Bass, he's a road grader. You know, he has something to him. He has that old school offensive lineman attitude, mentality. I want to finish you. I like that about him. But I would prefer to not see him going forward, respectfully, as there's nobody that can replace Big Martin.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of production that you have from T.J. Bass is certainly beneficial. You don't want to necessarily see it, but hey, I mean, you expect a guy like that to be ready. He went to Oregon. He played well at Oregon all the way through. And, of course, Isaiah likes his Oregon Ducks. When we come back here on Cowboys OT, we're going to take a look at Stephon Gilmore, see what he did on the secondary side of things. Josh Allen didn't have to do a whole lot, but how did Stephon Gilmore fail? Last week, Stephon Gilmore took the nation by storm, shutting down A.J. Brown and helping the Cowboys to a win. This week, he didn't have a whole lot to do, only 15 pass attempts from the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, but they gave up the run game. That was the big thing for this Dallas defense today. Here's what Stephon Gilmore had to say.
It's just not physical enough. That's what it really come down to, playing physical. They was more physical than we was today, and they were able to run for I don't know how many yards.
There was a play in the second quarter where Stephon fumbled it, and did you have a good view of that at all?
I didn't see it. Just made the tackle, and I didn't really know was he down or not. You know, you got to leave it up to the coaches to challenge those things.
Yeah. Was there any chatter amongst you guys as a defense, like, hey, should we be looking at this, or? I mean, obviously they're rushing a lot of scrimmage too, so you got to be rushing to get in position. But
yeah, I think that's a coach's question. I don't really know. We just kind of try to make plays, and hopefully someone tell the coach to challenge if it need to be challenged. So we just kind of out there just playing.
The penalties on the Bills' first 3 touchdown drives, there was a personal foul on each of them. One on third down, one of them on a punt, defense back on the field. What effect do you think that had on the course of just how this game went?
You can't win with penalties. You can't let them sustain drives. That's how you lose. So we got to fix that, and we can't allow it to happen because, you know, when you allow things like that happen, you know, it's already hard to stop offenses. You give them more room.
Micah talked about the road issues, that it's mind-boggling why that is. How do you flip the mentality of that going forward, knowing that you're going to be in positions that to play on the road?
It's a mindset, you know, no matter where we play, we should be able to play anywhere. At the end of the day, you still putting on your cleats, you still lining up, so you just got to be able to handle your business no matter where it's at.
How do you instill that mindset?
It's got to be in you. You know, we lost today. They was more physical than we was. If we was at home, you know, and they ran the ball, we got to stop the run. You know, it comes down to the same thing. So, and we wasn't able to do that today.
Next week, another road game, another top AFC team. Is that an opportunity for which you're grateful to get an opportunity just to go out there and try to have a different feeling this time next week?
For sure. I mean, you know, they got a great team. We got to fix our mistakes, fix what we didn't do well, and you know, because it's a copycat league. You know, if you don't correct the things you didn't do well last week, they go try to do the same thing. So you just got to do it and be able to perform next week.
I suppose this is an obvious question, but is it harder to play on the road, and if so, why?
It's not. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's football. Yeah, the fans is in it, but you got to line up. You got to cover the guy in front of you, and you know it shouldn't matter where it's at.
Did the rain or wind or anything? Do you think it affected all passing game today for either team? Like, did it feel? Is it something you felt in terms of impacting the way the ball was traveling or otherwise?
Not really. I mean, both teams got to deal with it, and you know, when you get later on in the season, you got to be able to stop the run and run the football. So, and we wasn't able to do that today.
Stephon Gilmore in that secondary. Didn't have a whole lot of butterflies whenever going up against Josh Allen. He didn't necessarily have to do a whole lot because of the ground game. But what did you think about what they did on the back end? Suffering some injuries along the way as well.
Yeah, I think they missed their middle of the field player, Malik Hooker. I think he's one of the better middle of the field guys that kind of keep everything in front of him for the defense, and he's one of the best tacklers from the safety position, which we know we needed a lot of that today. But overall, I think the secondary did a good job. I mean, they kept everything in front of them. There was no explosive plays through the passing game. Now, the running game, that's a different story. But overall, I believe that secondary for the Dallas Cowboys, they did their job. It's just it was a bad day on the ground for them.
Let's keep it real, Barry. There was only 15 attempts.
That was it.
There was 15 attempts, right? They gave up 7 catches on those 15 attempts for 94 yards. Half of that yardage came from the doggone running back coming out the backfield in Cook. So they didn't have a lot of opportunities. They didn't have a chance to really enforce their will the way in which they wanted to in terms of coverage. But you just heard Gilmore really just call themselves out and hold each other accountable by saying they got out physical today. That physicalness obviously starts in the front 7, but when the ball bounces outside, you now have an opportunity as a defensive back to come up and enforce your will as well. We saw Donovan Wilson do so today. He put one of their guys out the game. Outside of that, didn't really see much.
One-word answer here. Do the Cowboys secondary need to be more physical next week?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so, too. I think that's a number one thing. They didn't, like you said, not a ton of time through the air, but physicality needs to be there, especially against that Miami Dolphins team next week. And when we come back, we wrap up Cowboys OT, and we look ahead to that Christmas Eve matinee, see if the Cowboys can rebound.
The Cowboys OT was brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and by blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today.
The Cowboys fall to 10-4, and their number 1 seed in the NFC. Hopes have taken a large hit with the loss of the Buffalo Bills up in Orchard Park, New York. 31-10, the final score in Week 15. As we wrap up things on Cowboys OT with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Youmans. Barry, when we look at this team going into this week, where's the number 1 place of need? I lost my pen. Oh, yeah. Number 1 place of need for this Cowboys team going up against Miami?
Well, they definitely need to be more physical. We talked about all those players seeing that they need to be more physical out there. Tackling needs to get a little bit better. And when you talk about run support, we need it from everybody, not just the defensive line. Second level, corners, safety, they all need to come up and fit this run game and be a more physical defense out there. I think they'll get the job done.
Be better tacklers, and I think y'all called with a covered 2 shell where the safeties are back. Make sure you guys are way back because Miami is pretty fast.
Yeah, Nate's talking about, obviously in the secondary, protecting the big play down the field. I'm going to go ahead and say get a big man in here today. All right, I don't even want you to wait until you land. Get a big man on the. I want you to have 2 of them here for workouts so that you can figure out exactly what you're going to do on the interior defensive front to stop teams from having a running assault. Because don't get mixed up with the fact that they have Tyreek Hill and Mostert and all these guys that can run routes all day long. Miami has a top 10 running offense as well, so they might want to figure out how they're going to stop the run because I promise you they were watching film.
It's a very different look than what Buffalo has, but really not at the same time because Buffalo has some physicality. You saw that from both the trenches of the offensive line and defensive line, but from the skills standpoint, they have just as much speed, they have just as much talent in the backfield as the Buffalo Bills do. This is going to be a good test for this Dallas Cowboys team going into Week 16. Christmas Eve on the road at Hard Rock Stadium. We'll be here to break it down for you pregame and postgame starting at 2 p.m. Central Time on DallasCowboys.com. For Barry, Nate, and Isaiah and our entire Dallas Cowboys crew, I'm Kyle Youmans. The Cowboys fall to Buffalo 31-10. We'll see you next week.